Welcome to West Tigers TV. You're watching Claws Out. I'm your host, Gary Watson. To discuss the game against South Sydney up at Gosford yesterday, I am joined by Rob Bashara, Steve Stredden, and Rob Bashara Jr. How are you guys?
Well, thank you, Gary. How are you?
Now, it was a 20-16 loss to South Sydney yesterday. I'm going to start with our usual good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to start with you, Rob. You're good for this week.
Okay, you've caught me off guard here. Okay, the good was the forward pack. I was really worried about how we would go against the South Sydney forward pack last week. You can imagine North Queensland made ground at will, even though we won the game quite comfortably. And barring the first 10 minutes, I thought we dominated the game. When I've had my discussions with Adele and we talk about the six again, often Adele goes, well, if you're tackling really well and you're winning the ruck, you're not going to concede those six agains. And we certainly didn't concede many in the second half. So I thought the forwards did enough to lay the platform for our halves and backs to win the game, and the rest of the team weren't up to the job.
Steve?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I got our middle for as the good. We won the middle, should have won the game.
Junior?
Yeah, I've got the fact that we stayed in the game despite the Bunnies having all the ball for the first 20 minutes. Previous years, that turns into like a 30-point differential.
I'll stick with you, Junior. You're bad for yesterday.
Yeah, my bad's not getting the win, which is a pretty obvious one. I thought with the new attitude and the culture that we're building at the club, you kind of wish the side just found a way to get it done. I think that would have put a lot of trust in the fans, say we've turned a page in our book. It's just something we haven't had for 15 years.
Steve?
Pretty obvious one, I reckon, just the first 10 minutes, the start to the game. We just have to do something to address this issue that we start so slowly. It just happens time and time again. We've seen glimmers of it not happening, but we reverted straight back to that issue where we just come out of the block slow. It's not fatigue; it has to be attitude. They're just slow to the punch.
Red zone attack. It was awful. There was no ingenuity. I didn't see any shape. I know South Sydney were playing an up and in style of defence, but we saw again. I refer to last week because it's the only other game we played. We saw early grubber kicks where we were aggressive, where we could force a line back or to be wary of kicks. We did none of that last night early in the tackle count. I just thought we were, we just played so poorly in the red zone, and we'd win at ruck and then we'd get a hit up again and win another hit up again. I'm like, guys, spread the ball. South did it in the first half, couple of good forward hit ups. They spread the ball, they score.
That's going to be a pretty big topic of conversation for us tonight. So we'll come back to that soon. But it did remind me of our attack over the last couple of years. So that was a little bit disappointing to see. Steve, you're ugly.
I reckon reading the stats was exceptionally ugly reading because we won them. We won every stat except the play the ball speed. We won, and we won convincingly the stats. Now, when you look at that, we should have won the game. So that's ugly reading.
Junior?
Yeah, my ugly is obvious. It's the injuries to Luai and AD. They're obviously big losses. And other than that, I didn't like how soft the game's gotten. I know we'll talk about it later, but 8-point try to Macassini, Jai Gray laying on the floor getting high tackle calls. I thought that's pretty ugly.
My ugly was Gerald Skelton not putting a fingernail on the ball for the grubber kick that cost us the lead. You don't have to swish the ball dead and do a volleyball spike or anything like that. And that's either on the player or it comes to that attention to detail where the coaching staff or the outside back should be telling them, put your hand on the ball. You can't lose a game on that sort of basic, simple area. You drop a bomb or something like that, that sort of stuff I can accept. But when the ball's on the ground, hand on it, no problem.
Now, I encourage all our listeners to add their good, the bad, and the ugly to our comments below this video. While you're there, like and subscribe to the channel. The numbers are getting up there quite well, so we want to see that continue. Steve, you went up to the match yesterday, so I'm going to just discuss with you. For an away game, watching it on TV like I did, it came across as a very loud West Tigers crowd.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was a really intense atmosphere up there. Everyone was really on edge. It was a bruising game, and the players were really into each other, and that's how it felt in the stands as well. I imagine there were more South supporters because I know they'd sold a stack of tickets because of the Alex Johnson stuff, but it didn't feel like that. We were given as good as we got in the stand. I reckon we were louder than the Rabbits most of the time.
You didn't think about running out on the field when he scored another try to extend that record?
No, I did mention that in the ambush event because we had a few rabbits that must have got lost and snuck into our ambush event, and I did ask them to stay off the field if they could tonight so we could have a decent game of footy.
I think you would have heard at half time that Tigers chant coming through the TV, Rob. That was quite impressive to actually hear.
I heard it at 12-0 down, which was even more impressive, and I thought that gave the boys a bit of a lift. Look, it's great for the team to have that crowd support. I weaseled my way out of a wedding reception so I could stay home and watch the game. If I knew I was going to get out of that, I would have made the trip to Gosford.
So is your daughter talking to you?
My wife's talking to me. My wife's actually fantastic for letting me. I actually do have a not what do you call it? I have a viral infection, but it's not contagious. So don't worry, boys. So yeah, it was good to watch the game in full. You know, there were times there I wish I went to the wedding, but yeah, no, the crowd was great, mate. And look, we need the support. And how many? There was like 19,000 people there.
Yeah, just under 20,000.
Yeah, that's a fantastic crowd for a Gosford game. So well done to South and the Tigers for having such a big crowd.
We started the game again, Junior, quite slowly. Disappointing to see. I think when you have a look at it, you have a look at the trials, you have a look at our form last year, that definitely is a habit at the club. Your thoughts on those slow starts?
Yeah, I don't know if we're to blame for the slow start. I think some credit needs to be given to Souths. I think they did a good job of putting us in our end. Obviously, the slow start comes from a couple of errors once they did kick it down our end. Skelton dropping a ball. I think Makasini dropped the ball off a Luai pass as well. So we put ourselves under pressure. But like I said, I think after 23 minutes being 12-0 down, and to that point, I think we had like 3 proper sets of 6. So I thought that was actually a positive.
But that's the point, mate, isn't it? Like, it's all right to say, yeah, we've got to give credit to Souths. The way I would look at that is Souths took advantage of our unforced errors. And we've got to cut these unforced errors out at the beginning of games. It just happens way too often. We put ourselves under pressure. The scenario that we see play out all the time is we drop a ball, they go downfield, we can't defend it downfield, and they score a try, and we're down 6-0 before we're into the game. It just happens so often. There's got to be something about the mindset.
I know what you mean, but I'm just looking at it from the flip side. If you're a South Sydney fan and you had all that ball for the first 22 minutes and you're only up 12-0, I actually think that shows that our defence wasn't as bad as what some of the fans may think. I think we actually did a good job of containing them on the left edge. I was always actually worried about their right edge because Makasini and Luliti, like I said, they're too inexperienced centre and wing combination, and Jack Wyden's not a nobody. I think Bennett did a good job of picking that out for their first 2 tries.
There won't be any ref blaming, but we were very unlucky at the beginning of the game. Terrell May was penalised for offside. I rewound it. No one was offside. Then they kicked for touch, and unluckily Adam had his foot on the line. So I think the start, just from that poor penalty, that's where everything started. We've got to be able to defend those bad decisions, and we didn't do that. We had enough ball to win 2 games. So I'm not blaming the ref, but that just to find a penalty for someone not being offside, that just really bugs the crap out of me.
The issue I have with that start is West Tigers' DNA over the last couple of years has been error, compounded by another error, compounded by the inability to defend that. And that happened twice yesterday. And that's why we're out to 12-0. Yes, there's a couple of calls we can say were referee problems, but we've got to control the aspects we can fix up. And it's that compounding of errors, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I've just been saying, right? We've got to come out sharper. We've attention to detail, Rob mentioned, is what it's all about. Like unforced errors at the beginning of the game. Well, unforced errors are no good at any time. We are going to make them, but they've got to really sharpen up when they get out onto that field. Like I take what you're saying, Robbie. I agree with that, but we were lucky we weren't down 18-0. There's another try that was disallowed, right? And
he knocked it on.
Yeah. But if there wasn't,
no, but that ball was meant to go to the winger, and Whiten got in the way.
Like
yeah,
I'm
saying they had some handling errors of their own as well. All I'm saying is,
but we could have been down 8. What I'm saying, we could have been down 18-0, and it really didn't change till Jai Gray went off because he was killing us down that right side.
He was. He actually, I thought he had the better of Luai all night. Yeah. I actually thought there was a couple of times Makasini was kind of in no man's land. I'm sure Adele will touch on it in the pod after us. But I just, like I said, I think we did a good job considering the fact that we did have so many unforced errors and we were put under such pressure in our own red zone. I thought we did a good job of keeping the score at 12-0 only. We ended up with a lead going into the half somehow. Does anyone have the stats on what our completion was? Like I think considering all the errors, we still had a pretty good completion rate as well. So I don't think there was. I think that a bit of credit's got to be given to Souths for just, getting the game won.
We ended up with an 85% completion rate.
I'm with you with all that. I am with you. I'm just saying we've got to address our starts. That's what I'm saying. The fact that we went in at the Sheds at 14-12 is
you want to be up by 12.
It's amazing, right? It's amazing that we led, but it's just happened too much. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and without that slow start, because they only scored those 12 points in the first half, possibly we're going in with a 14-point lead at the start. I know the game changes completely at that stage, but that slow start, we're starting from behind every single week, just about, and that's putting scoreboard pressure onto the side. And when we talk about the next 25 minutes after those first tries where we really struggle to score points, to me, a lot of that comes down to the pressure that we're placing on ourselves.
I just thought we were way too conservative with our attack. I mentioned at the start of the show we were putting attacking kicks against North Queensland. We weren't doing that against South last night. We did put a couple of grubber kicks where we got like scrum feeds again. Like I think Coruscant put a grubber kick, Adam put a grubber kick. They made errors. We got the ball back. So I don't mind the fact that we built pressure by holding the ball and you think maybe you can get him in the second half. But then in the second half, and I don't want to get too far ahead, you'll bring me back. But the first 10 minutes of the second half, we dominated and South ended up scoring in the 53rd minute or whatever it was. We're just not icing our opportunities. But I just thought it was back to that conservative style of play, like the, Penrith, grind them into the dirt sort of play, as opposed to last week where we were going for it, from scrum plays on the first tackle or second tackle rubber kicks. It was almost like there was a bit of lack of self-belief.
Look, we don't have to go to the second half to look at that inability to actually take advantage. Steve, we camped on South's try line for about 25 minutes there.
Yeah. 7 or 8 sets.
7 or 8 sets in a row. And what has historically been a problem for our side is that inability to score in the red zone reared its ugly head again.
Yeah, it absolutely did. Look, I liked the fact that, as Rob said, I liked the fact that we were getting repeat sets and building pressure. That some of that was good luck rather than good management, but
Correct.
it was still we did it, right? We were down there. But just trying to barge through the middle, like some, and I don't want to be disrespectful, right? These guys are first grade footballers, and they're 1,000 times better than I could ever be, right? So I respect them greatly. But it was like watching under 14s where let's just give it to the biggest bloke and get him to barge over, right? Like the South showed, like after we did it the first time, the second time, the third time, we should have woken up to the fact that we're not going to go through the middle and screw under the post, right? We had to create numbers in attack, right, to hold their defensive line and create a gap, right? And we didn't. Where was our 3-on-2? Where were we trying to get the numbers on the edge? Just wasn't there.
Junior, for me, that comes down to our inability to strip numbers, which has been my primary reason for us having that poor red zone attack for the last 3 years. Your thoughts on that?
Look, I think it's a combination of things. I think, first of all, credit's due to South Sydney, as Dad pointed out earlier. They played a really up and in-your-face style of defence on the edges. To Dad's point as well, I kind of wish on second tackle we kicked in behind the line and kept their defence on the edges a little bit more honest. I felt like we didn't do a good job of keeping them honest with an early kick, and we also didn't do a good job of utilising Jareem Buller's threat. There was a couple of times we run some shape, and KPP and Sam Fainu on the left and right edges, they're running that lead hole, and we're just giving it early out the back to Buller. Bunnies are just sliding out all day. You need to hit a short ball and straighten up in attack. And I think the reason we weren't playing short once we went 2 passes wide is because of the fact that we were taking so many hit-ups up
Correct.
the middle that it just felt like, well, we've gone 2 forwards have just had 2 runs. We've got to kind of get our outside backs involved a bit. And I felt like last week we played a patient style of footy, whereas this week we kind of just forced our outside backs to, here you go, here's some ball, do something. The structure, it went away a little bit last night.
So after that 25 minutes, Rob, we did eventually break through. Api Coruscant made a nice break 30 metres out from the line. Threw a dummy and almost...
He did it again, didn't he?
Yeah, he was very close to embarrassing Latrell again. But off the back of that, play the ball. We went to Luai, who got a nice short ball to Fainu running a lead line, and we score.
That's right, and that's the thing. As Rob and Steve have pointed out, like our attack was so futile in the red zone. Literally, all we did in the first half was a break from Appy, which set up that try, and then a torpedo bomb, which was magnificent, by the way. It's an easy one for the South right winger to drop. They were the only two opportunities we got. So I don't know. Like I guess you do want to force errors and score at any opportunity you can, but I just think it highlighted how inept we are in attack.
Yeah, that for me, we talk about those two tries. The first one came off a dummy half run and us having South short because they had to compress to actually stop Appy. The second one came off a drop bomb. We need to be creating better chances than that, Steve.
Yeah, we do, and we've got to come up with game plans that are suitable for the team we're playing against, right? Like South Sydney, they were visibly fatiguing. I know we're not at the second half here, but they were visibly fatiguing around that 60-minute mark. And you said there for that first try, they were slow to get their line in order because they'd been sucked in. But then we said this the other day in the pod, right? They're not a fast team. They don't get down the field quickly. They don't reset quickly, right? So we should have used that advantage in this game, and we didn't. We tried to beat them by being Souths. We tried to bash them down the middle, and that was the completely wrong way, I believe, that we should have taken on this team.
Steve, there were two men that I was worried about pre-game and talking in the preview last week. It was Latrell Mitchell and David Fafita. Watching that game, and I haven't watched a replay. I've only watched it once. David Fafita and Latrell Mitchell are the reason we got back into the game. They treated us with contempt at 12-0. They were just starting to stand in tackles, throw it around. You know what, we're just going to score at will here. And it was their errors that gave us a chance to recoup, get some ball in our hands and get some momentum back. I actually think Latrell Mitchell, I don't know why people are saying he was magnificent. He was involved in tries, but I don't think he had a great game at all. And I even think Jareem Buller showed him up at one stage when Taruva lost the ball in the second half. It was a 3-on-3, and somehow he drew Mitchell into him and flicked the ball out, and the ball came out forward from Taruva. I thought Mitchell had a poor game by his standards, and when you get a game like that from Latrell and you still lose, it's got to give you the shits.
Yeah, it does. But I think the thing that we've got to realise as well is even though our halves didn't look like they did much to that point, when Luai goes down injured, I know we're not there, but when he goes down injured and you're in the closing stage of a tight game, Luai and Appy are the only two people at our club who are qualified to actually close out and win those gritty games because they've come from the Penrith system. Taruva as well, obviously, but he's a winger. Like, they're involved in the spine. So when you have an injury to a player like Luai, you just expect someone like him to grab the game and just take over and get us over the line. And I think his injury cost us the game last night.
Yeah, we will get to that a little bit later, but I don't doubt that either. I also think a couple other aspects around interchanges around that time hurt us as well. That second try we mentioned a moment ago, Steve, came off an Adam Dewey bomb. It was good to see him actually put up one of those massive spiral kicks where he gets the belly of the ball again. Probably we won't see that for a while again.
Definitely not.
But it was good to see that return to our game plan.
Yeah, that's a good weapon, that kick, and I'm surprised we don't use it more often. But it was good to get a try from it. That's my.
I think with that torpedo bomb, it's relevant to the pressure you get from the opposition. If you've got time to put that up, Adam's going to put that up 10 times out of 10. They didn't put pressure on Adam, so he had time to set up and really get it in the heart of the belly. And my God, that was a magnificent kick. Now,
you mentioned it as you're ugly. Makasini went over, scored that try. He got the bump on the face. You don't think it was a penalty try, a 8-point try, Junior? Steve, your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, by the letter of the law, it was. But I think I agree with Robbie. I think it was really soft.
Very soft. Obviously, the timing was totally wrong from Latrell Mitchell. If you know anything about rugby league, and I know people will say the ball was grounded, but everyone knows Latrell was trying to dislodge the ball from Makasini's hand. It didn't happen. But I know if are you going to touch on any of these other softer penalties in the game? So I want to mention two other soft ones.
Go for them
now.
So
first half, Jai Gray gets smashed, in a tackle where he's basically 1.5 foot off the ground. Like, honestly, I don't know how much lower he could have got unless he was at Rookwood. And Sione gets pinged for tapping him on the shoulder for just doing a hard tackle. That was one. And then when Adam put the kick where he hurt his hamstring, Kai Pearce-Paul does nothing to him and he just throws his head backwards, as if he was shot. And the ref gives a penalty for a high shot when he was basically on the ground and he wasn't touched in the head. Like, the penalties are getting soft. But I'm one of those ones. Look, we've been on the wrong side of 8-point tries, I still remember Luke Burt still haunts me back in 2009 at the Sydney Football Stadium. But to me, that shouldn't be given as a penalty try, because all you're doing is encouraging the try scorer to stay down and act. If he was hurt, put him in the head bin. Okay, if you're worried about, put the concussion protocol into place. And that's we're Tigers. Like, we want to get the benefit of everything. But as Robbie said, we had no right to be leading at halftime 14-12.
Well, that's my next question. And I'll throw it to you first, Junior. We led 14-12 at halftime. Was that deserved?
You know what? I'm going to go yes, because like I said, we didn't touch the ball for 23 minutes of that half. All right, we took over when there was about 16 or 17 minutes left in the first half. Granted, we had a lot of opportunities where it felt like we could have scored. I think if anyone rewatches that game and watches that first half, I don't think we were as conservative as what Dad's saying. I think we actually threw a couple of scrum plays at them, and like I pointed out in our group chat, I think the timing of Makasini was very off on a few of those plays. I don't mean to single him out. Like, he is only 18
Can you go into that just a tiny bit so people understand the context?
So there's a play that we run where we've got the scrum in the middle of the field. Makasini's standing pretty flat on the left-hand side. It's Luai feeding the scrum and Appy at lock, and then you've got Lauliti outside Makasini. Luai feeds the ball in, and then he breaks out to the left. Appy picks up the ball, and the plan is for Makasini to run a short ball and Luai to go out the back to create a 2-on-1 with Lauliti. Makasini gets his timing completely wrong. He overruns Appy Coruscant. The first time Appy ends up throwing a dummy because he sees Jack Wyden actually shoots up on Luai. Makasini's already in front of Appy, and we actually get a penalty and we repack the scrum. The next time we repack the scrum, Makasini would have been through, but again, he mistimes his run. He's ahead of Appy. Appy no longer has the option to pass to him on the short ball, so he goes out the back to Luai, and Luai gets smashed by Wyden. So I think we did throw a couple of set plays at South Sydney.
They just weren't executed properly.
The pressure of Jack Wyden being up, and then also the inexperience of a line runner like Makasini, that play depends on how he times that run. Like, you've seen so many times, just look at last week when someone runs a lead line for Jareem Buller, he gets it out the back off Adam, and because they've drawn in their defender on that lead run, it's just a tip-on pass to KPP and he scores. Like, you need to get the timing of those set plays correct, and our left edge just didn't get it done last night.
And it's even more important on those ones off the scrum, because when you're setting up for a set play in general play, the rest of the game's going on around you. That's coming from a standing start. That's coming from, you can start in the exact position you need to because we've set this up, we've trained it all season, and getting it wrong under those circumstances is probably less forgivable.
It was disappointing. There was even one where Buller feeds the scrum and then he passes to Luai at first receiver and he's wrapping out the back hard straight off the scrum. And then, again, Makasini's running the lead line for him, gets his lead line wrong, and it doesn't give Buller the space he needs. I just think if we were a bit sharper on those lead lines, we would have scored a lot more tries. If Taylor May was there on those plays, their tries last night.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I agree that we got our timings wrong, and I think there's another aspect to it as well. I was sitting right on the try line, and in that period where we had the 8 sets in a row on them, their speed off the line was just incredible. They weren't offside. Like, I was right there watching it. They were not offside. They were just getting up so quick in our faces, and they did that really well all night. Right? They put us under so much pressure. And then what you're saying was the result of that.
The thing about being up in a NRL team's face, the way South Sydney were up in our face last night, is usually you have to turn the ball back on the inside or else play short and direct to keep teams honest. If you're not going to keep them honest that way, then it's something like a kick behind the line that's going to work. Adele will touch on it on the next pod, but we ran a play where it was actually improvised at the last second, in my opinion. We run a switch runner, and Luai dummies the first switch runner, and Sione's actually drifting out. He sees the South Sydney defender chasing across hard to cut off Luai, and he actually drops under, and Luai gives that ball, and he makes a break. We all think he's going to run straight over Jai Gray and score our first try of the second half. But that's where, that's an experience thing. Like, you can't expect Makasini to get the timing right on all those lead runs. And even when you see Luai drifting sideways or Adam drifting sideways, there was a couple of times I felt like Taruva should have switched to Adam. He's running out your space. There's no point staying on the outside shoulder. You have to switch. Cody Walker's coming across hard. You've got to switch and then use your footwork and catch people out. I just feel like our awareness at reading what the defender's doing from both our centres was very poor last night.
Yeah, and you know what? They should have picked that up too in the planning for this game, because we picked it up in the preview game. We said, like, the Rabbits overchase, right? They do overchase, so that's perfect for someone to cut back on the inside, and there'll be space there, and we didn't take advantage of that.
Gary, even though they've had a couple of games, we're talking, Taruva played some centre last week, and obviously Skelton played the wing. You look at our best choice team pre-season, and now given we've had 2 halves injured, we've got 6 blokes out.
Yeah.
Technically, we've got both wingers playing in the centres.
Correct.
Okay, and now we've got our 2 starting centres, Toa and Taylor May, out, and now we've got our 2 halves out. The only good news is, boys, is the team that won the comp last year, they lost both halves in the same game against Melbourne. So that's the only miraculous bright side to it.
So we've spoken all off-season about how happy we were with our back line. Considering you've just spoken about that, does that give you any kind of consolation with that performance last night? The fact that we're running 2 guys, Makasini, a guy who is very early in his career, who we all think should be spending some more time on the wing, and a guy who is an out-and-out winger in the centres. Does that give you any – and does that ease your feeling on last night at all?
I guess in the long term it should, but as, definitely the biggest sook among the 4 of you, no, it doesn't make me feel better, because when you cop injuries like you cop to your halves and Taylor and May, if we'd have won that game last night and we've had a bye, we're technically 3-0. If you lose your next 3 matches because of player personnel and having people missing, you can still be at a 50% record after round 6. The fact now that we're back to parity, we lose the next 4 games, we're up shit creek without a paddle. So last night was devastating. I'm not only depressed about, I was absolutely devastated, and the messages I got from people that, I confide in about rugby league, like that just felt like a season over. And I know it's not, obviously, and it's only 1 game, but it's just the fact that we've lost both halves. We don't have 2 centres. Basically Dream Bull is the only person in our starting 1 to 7.
So is it the loss of the players? We'll come back to going through that second half in a moment, but while you're mentioning this, I do want to draw you out on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it the injuries compounding with the loss that you're finding hard?
Definitely, because I know that if there's Adam and Romy and Taylor and Star next week, we're a big shot at beating New Zealand. But not with, if put it this way, if we'd have had both our halves and both our centres pull out before the game against North Queensland, I know Toa was already out, but what would your prediction be? Like, you've got to be a realist about these things. And then let's just say, we have Latu back, which I doubt he will be back, but you play Latu with Jock. Jock hasn't had a proper hit out since the interclub challenge, like the inner-house challenge or the Penrith trial. So it's not like he's been playing West Magpies every week. He's sat on the bench now 2 weeks in a row. So I think it's just expecting too much for kids to slot in. I mean, he's going to try his best, don't get me wrong, and he'll add some things that Adam, can't. He gives us more width, and he definitely can play some shape.
I think there's a different attitude we can have from the beginning of that game to the attitude we have at the end of that game. I think now, how we sit at the moment, we now have 4 substantial injuries. Like, that's going to rock any club, right? And I think we can now have that conversation. Well, we've been a bit unlucky, and we've been hit by injuries. It's going to make it tough. But before the game, we had 2 injuries, right? And I know that our starting centres are out. I get that, but every club has injuries, right? Every club, we've got to have that next. It's a cliche, that next man up mentality. I don't think we can go into that game and say, oh, well, our starting centres are out, so that performance was acceptable. We can't accept that.
Steve, when you consider the 2 halves, the 2 centres, and Latu Fainu, that's $3 million basically, at least out of your cap.
But you're talking. I'm saying while we still had.
But I'm talking now.
Yeah, I know.
Going into next.
But I'm saying it's a different attitude, right? We should not accept yesterday's loss because we've had a couple of injuries.
I
right?
accept that. No,
that's
on us not putting the game away. I get that, but I'm trying to say, like, if you've got injuries and they're spread out over different areas, you can accept it. But when you got let's leave Latu out, who's on about $500,000 a year. You got roughly $2.5 million worth of injuries now in the back line. Yeah. Without Latu, add Latu, that's $3 million. Like, it's not like it's a couple of forwards and a couple of backs and it's spread out and you got to be like, it's all from number 1 to number 7. It's a big deal.
Yeah, 100%. Mate. I'm not disagreeing at all. Like, we're in strife now.
I said, we've got depth in the halves. I actually said we've got depth in the halves. Now we've got 3 injured halves. We don't know if Latu, I don't even know who would play 5'8" next week. I genuinely don't. Like, do you throw? I mean, you talk about it later, obviously, but Yeah, maybe I won't jump the gun. I'll let
But
you.
my-
I'll let you get back to hosting the show.
My point that I want to make is when we ran out in the field last night, we had 17, 19 players, whatever it is now, that were capable of winning that football game. We showed in the game we were capable of winning that football game. But just like last year, right, where we had 3, 4, 5 games that we should have won and we didn't, we've done the same thing. So we can't accept it. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's early doors yet, but we should have had 2 points. And then to your point, then we can go to New Zealand knowing that we're massively under strength. And if we drop the game, we drop the game.
Exactly.
Now, Junior, I think you and I should just have a chat for 5 minutes because
Sorry,
we've,
boys.
Sorry.
we've kind of
No,
just
he's
sat here watching the pod like everyone else who's watching it on YouTube. So
He's already dissected the whole game. I reckon he can have
He's
a break
done the
now.
Adele pod already on his own.
Look, we will briefly touch on that second half. I think, again, the same issues that we saw in that first half, Junior. Inability early to take advantage of when we had a lot of ball on down their end of the field. They then get away with what was a fairly off a poor kick. Souths put up a couple of really short bombs that we didn't attack.
Yeah.
And on one of those, they get the ball back to Latrell Mitchell, who goes down the sideline. Your thoughts on how we should have played that moment? Should we have been more attacking on those short bombs that looked like miss kicks?
Look, when that bomb went up, I actually was saying, don't contest it. Because,
So was
As
I.
we all did.
like, I know, and I mean this respectfully, I'm trying, especially this season, not to bag on players, but I know Skelton's not exactly the safest under a high ball. Like, when I see Buller contesting a bomb, I just have no doubt he's going to catch it. I hope I haven't jinxed him, but
Well, you didn't get the one over Jai Gray.
I feel safe when Buller's going up for a bomb. But with Skelton, I was thinking, just let it bounce. The difference is, but we let South Sydney win that contest, but no one is running to a man around Alex Johnston. Like, when Alex Johnston's jumped 2 feet above you to catch the ball, you have enough time to go to a defender, and if he can land, turn around, take off, and still beat you, he's Usain Bolt. Like, that's where the IQ from our outside backs just needs to be better. Like, if Skelton's going to let him take that bomb, okay, look around. You see Latrell Mitchell wrapping out the back, so that way, as soon as Johnston has his hands on the ball, it's a straight little tap on to Latrell at pace, and you're never going to catch Latrell when he's sweeping like that. So I just think the IQ needs to be better from the outside backs. I don't mind not contesting the bomb, but don't contest it with purpose and shut down what's about to happen. Have that anticipation.
Now, we dominated South through the middle almost the entire game. Towards the end of the game, right when their forwards are tiring, Steve, I really thought the decision to take Appy off in that moment.
Yep.
I know we speak all the time about getting him time on the bench and getting him a rest, but moving him from that hooker position in that final 20 minutes when it's been a game where we've gone through the middle or game where we've dominated the middle, South's forwards are tiring. Was that the right call?
No, it's horses for courses, isn't it? Because we have said, for Appy's longevity, we need him not to be playing 80 minutes. But we'd shown through the course of that game that we weren't going to beat them out wide, or we weren't taking the ball wide. We identified before the game that we can beat South behind the ruck, that their markers can be lazy, so that brings Appy into play. He showed that in the first half because we did score from him doing that. So no, I think we need with the game the way it was positioned at that time, we needed him to stay on. And I also want to say, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I don't want to be disrespectful for anyone who takes the field, but I said after the trials, and I said it last year too. Tristan Hope, he's a good bloke, I imagine, but he's not a first grader. He's not like, and I thought I didn't say anything last time because I've seen him just take it and take it and take it. And I thought, is he a ball hog, or does he just is he just trying to show Benji what he's got? Well, mate, he took it twice for nothing plays yesterday, and you just can't do that.
I'm with Steve on Hope. Nothing personal. I just thought he was a hog. Like, he didn't need to do that. Regards to Appy, I think it's easy with the benefit of hindsight to say you shouldn't have taken him off. I'm 100% sure Benji took him off to bring him back on and give him like a 10-minute breather. So we can't be critical of Benji just because Luai got injured in the 67th minute. I think it just didn't work out the way you want. I think if Benji knew what was going to happen, Jock Madden would have come on.
Correct.
So it's just easy to be critical after the fact. That's all. So no, I'm not critical of that change.
Yeah, hindsight's a good benefit, but I think the ironic thing about it is Luai actually gets injured because of Hope's pass to Luai. So
Yeah.
Hope actually passes the ball about half a metre behind Luai and at his right knee. And as a result, instead of putting that little bomb, that 25, 30 metre bomb Luai usually puts up, he does a little grubber that goes about 6 or 7 metres behind the line. Him and Lulei contest it, and that's when the clash happens and he does his knee. If the service from dummy half was better, but that kick probably never happens, he never gets injured.
Very good observation.
Appy comes back on, and we've got Appy and Luai to close out that game.
I've been reading online all day. I want to talk about a couple of players,
Sure.
but a player I want to highlight, Dream Buller. I thought he had quite a reasonable game last night, but there's been a lot of fan speculation about how poor he was last night. Your thoughts on his game?
I thought he had a great game last night. I don't know what people are watching. It actually got to the point, middle of the second half, he looked like he needed to be subbed off. He'd run that hard. I don't think he had much energy left when he did try to contest that bomb with Jai Gray. I don't know what people want from him. It's basically, one of you mentioned the under-7 stuff earlier. It sometimes looks like give him the ball and let's see what he can do.
Yep.
And as I mentioned earlier, to his credit, he did that to Latrell, at drawing him in and nearly setting up a try or a potential try to Skelton. I don't know what you guys want from him. He did a really good job. He was the one person I was looking to in the last 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know if I mentioned it on the group chat. I said it's Buller time. If we're going to win this, that was the only bloke on the field I had faith that was going to be able to do something. It had to be Buller.
I reckon what happens is people see him do something spectacular, which he's capable of doing. He'll come around and get through a gap or go through the middle, and people think they're going to see it every time he gets the ball. Right? The guy would be heavily marked now. Like when he first came into first grade, he wouldn't have been as heavily marked. He would be on everyone's tip sheet now. People have watched him, watched his strength, watched his weaknesses. So it's twice as hard for him now to do what he did when he first came into first grade, and that's part of his growth, right? He'll find a way to jump it to the next level. It's like Macassini, like he breaks the tackle in Penrith. Now everyone thinks he's going to do it every single time. Doesn't work like that. He was great last night.
Yeah, a couple of issues Macassini had, or were you talking Buller was great?
I'm talking Buller, sorry.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic as well. Your opinion?
Yeah, my thoughts on Buller were I thought it was a quiet night for his standard. And again, I know you're saying you can't expect him to be great every week. I don't know if blame's the right word, but I'm actually not going to put it down to Jareem. I actually, if blame's the word we're using, I actually put it down to our halves. I think our halves did a poor job of unlocking Buller.
Agreed.
I think there was times where we'd give Buller the ball out the back, and as Dad said, it's just like an under-7s, like, here you go, do something. And that wasn't the case when we played the Cowboys. When we played the Cowboys, you had KPP going hard at the line, drawing defenders in, so that when Buller gets the ball, there's already the 3-on-2, and you just know he's either going to finish it or make the right pass to get us the try. Whereas last night, he was getting that ball way too early. And if he wasn't as brilliant a player as he is, he wouldn't have even looked like threatening the line. He almost scored in the first half. If he had tucked his jersey in, he would have scored. And that was just, again, getting the ball off the back and beating Latrell off a right foot.
Yeah, that's my big problem, and it's been my problem with why we can't strip numbers is our inability to engage the line and hold those sliding defenders up. And we never slide those defenders up. So when he actually gets the ball, there's two guys right in front of him straight away.
I think it was just a very different game to when we played the Cowboys. But like I said, I think the Cowboys hung back on their heels a lot more than South Sydney did last night. And when the Cowboys didn't hang back on their heels and they were up, our halves had the smarts to kick in behind the line or hit a short ball just to keep them honest. And like I said, I think our halves did a very poor job last night of keeping South Sydney's defence honest.
Alex Twalsteve, when we announced his re-signing in the preseason, I think I was fairly harsh on his re-signing.
Exceptional.
You think?
145 metres last night, 37 tackles. Am I wrong?
Absolutely, you're wrong. I said it last week. I posed the thought. I said I am happy to have, unless we were going to get what's his name, Yo from Penrith. I'm happy to have him as our starting 13, and I think he's showing it. He's like you put on the chat through the game. I think is he going to another level? Yeah, he is. He's improving his game. He is a good starting 13 and a good middle for us.
He's got more strings to his bow now, so you got to give Benji credit for that. He's passing before the line. He's trying to offload. He only got one offload last night, but you mentioned all these tackles. Again, with everything he did, he didn't miss a tackle.
Yep.
He's always one of the first forwards on the kick chase. You can't fault him. Like, I don't know if he's just inspired by the extra extension or whatever's going on, but look, they say players take the credit when you win and coaches get the blame when you lose. But I think in Alex's case, you got to give Benji some credit here. You can't just say it's on the player. Like, that's one player. We always criticise coaches not being able to develop players, and especially Benji. He's done that with Alex Twal.
Yeah. This season, he's wearing 13 and he's actually playing like a lock. Like in previous years, whenever he's worn 13, we've basically had 3 props on the field. He's just been hit up, no pass. He's actually starting to play like a modern lock. He's got good hands. He's got the ability to offload. And if he doesn't dig in and then pass and he takes that run on, he's a strong body that can get a lot of post-contact meters. So I'm happy with him at lock.
The other one I want to mention, Hunt came on and had impact again last night. You were quite critical of him at times last year.
Very critical of him last year.
Your thoughts on his start to the season?
Love what he's given us at the start of this season. Royce Hunt's been magnificent. He was very unlucky not to get a try last night. I'm not really sure, having only watched it at the time, whether it was Tallis Duncan's arm or it was Jai Gray's foot.
It was the boot.
Jai Gray.
It was the boot.
Little pain in the arse, isn't he? Seriously.
Yeah, I really don't like him after last night.
I really hate him right now, and that's a mark of respect as to how good he played last night. But yeah, very happy with Royce Hunt. He's doing a job. He's not like spectacular. It's just more rounded as opposed to total diamonds and total rocks. It's just a little bit more measured, a little bit more consistent, and we're getting a few more minutes out of him. So, again, full credit to the coaching staff and to Royce Hunt for putting in the hard work. And you know what? It comes back to that decision to drop him after the Cowboys' first match last year and basically keep him out of first grade for 3 months. And he didn't sook.
Yeah,
he came back and worked his ass off.
Yeah, it wasn't the dropping of him. It was his response to the dropping.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, like he's dropped, 7-8 kilos. It's fantastic. Can I say 2 things about Royce Hunt? I agree. I've actually given him 1 point in my 3-2-1 because I think he did everything he could have done for us in the minutes he was given last night. And the other thing I want to say is that try, that ball this much, that was the turning point. We score that try, we win that game for sure.
We're 8 points ahead if he scores there.
Okay, I think we've already briefly spoken about it. You've already started to kind of plan ahead, Rob.
Yes.
I think the big talking game outside of last night, apart from the loss junior, is the injuries to both halves. Now, we've all sat here tonight and discussed how we didn't think they had their best game last night, but it's a huge blow for us moving forward.
It is a big blow. Just having a consistent spine is always going to help a team's ability to make finals come September. I think I'm on the positive side of supporters, but where I'm actually quite happy with the depth that we've got. I know, granted, our first 3 starting halves are out with Luai, Adam and Latu, but I've got full faith in Jock Madden doing a job at 7. And whether it be Javon Andrews at 6 or if Latu is fit. Look, ideally, I'd like to see Latu at 6 and Jock at 7, provided they're both healthy. And I know it's a big jump in salaries and experience and all that sort of stuff, but I feel like Jock will handle the role that Adam usually does for us, and he'll provide that, as Dad said earlier, he'll provide that bit of width, and he knows how to play shape. And Latu is just a natural footballer, much like Jerome. So I don't think we're going to lose too much in that respect. I'm actually a bit more worried about who our centres pairing is going to be, because I feel like a half is only as good as their runners. And we've got strike in our second row, as we pointed out last week, but missing Taylor May, missing Stafford Toa, and not having those strike centres, I think that's what's going to hurt our team most.
When asked about it last night, Benji Marshall was fairly coy on whether Madden would come into that role. And he has had some personal issues in the last week that could affect him coming into the side. But your thoughts? He's straight into that 7 jumper?
Yeah, he's straight to 7. Well, they're both out, so yeah, he's straight to 7. It's not actually 100% that Dewey's out, is it? But it's more than likely.
Benji's wording around it was hamstring tightness.
Yeah.
Now, when you can't walk off the field, it seems like a lot more than hamstring tightness to me.
All right. Well, let's say that's the case. So yeah, Madden goes straight in. What I don't want to see, Appy put in the halves. Right against the Warriors, we need Appy at dummy half, right?
Especially with no backup for that hooker spot.
100%. So I don't know if Javon Andrews is ready for it. He played well in the trials. He looked good. He looked like he's got something to offer. But you're not going to know unless you throw him in, I suppose.
Yeah, I thought Benji did his best Pinocchio when he was saying it was hamstring tightness. That looked like a minimum 4-week injury to me. And Benji's the most honest guy in press conferences too. What Benji does from here, I think the cupboard's really thin in outside backs as well. Like if you just wanted to go totally left field, you might consider throwing Buller into the halves with Jock, putting Taruva at fullback. But then you think, who do we put at centre? Like we're not going to put Herbert there after what he did in the trial. Like he was terrible. Unless he's improved, but Benji might not have a choice. I don't know what the answer is, guys. But what I will say is, whatever happens in the next 4 weeks, we can't blame the coaches now. This is a personnel issue.
I reckon there's a chance. I don't disagree with that. With Herbert wasn't impressive, but I think there's a chance Herbert will start in the centres and Makasini will go back out to the wing. I think that may happen.
Who gets dropped? Skelton? Because Lulii had a great game last night.
Yeah, Lulii played well. Yeah, I don't know. I think Makasini is struggling defensively at centre. So I'm just throwing up.
He's
Herbert might be
struggling off the scrum plays. He's definitely struggling off the scrum.
So he's also that disallowed try.
Yep.
And if you have a look at it, he turned in way too early, and that's how they got around him, right? So he's still. I think he's struggling to find out where to move and when to move. In that one in.
So you'd leave Taruva in the centres over Makasini?
I think Taruva's more experienced. I think because of Taruva's experience, it's hard, mate. It's hard, right? Because Taruva to me is not a natural centre either, right? He showed that last night.
No, he's an out-and-out winger for me. Who can possibly fill in at fullback.
I actually don't mind what you said about moving him to fullback. I think if it gets desperate, that may not be a bad option.
But what are you going to do with Buller? Buller's not a 5'8". Buller's a through and through fullback. You don't want to do a Sheensy shuffle. Buller's playing fullback. Taruva's playing centre.
We're just brainstorming here.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
I don't even want that idea in the air of Buller not wearing number one.
Benji might be watching.
Yeah,
you know what, Rob?
No.
We're giving him under sevens ball anyway. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, well, if you're going to play like that, then I'd prefer to deprive our centres of early ball, and I'd prefer Makasini and Skelton play centre and use them as line runners, and then run your shape one play wider. And use Skelton as a big body and Makasini as a big body running holes with Fainu and KPP rather than out the back shape.
So if we don't change the 3/4 line, we bring in Javon Andrews in. Can I ask all you guys?
If Latu's not fit, who do we have? Is there any other option?
Is that the only option? Is there another option?
I have that as a question on the run sheet.
Oh, sorry, mate.
No.
I'm trying to give you a chance to have something to say. That's all.
Because I don't think there is another option.
It is. It's moving Appy.
But you've already said you don't want to do that.
No,
we don't want to do that.
The thing about moving Appy Coruscant is I think we saw from the trials, the second best hooker we have outside of Appy is Haywood. And Haywood can't, correct me if I'm wrong, Haywood actually isn't allowed to play NRL until he's upgraded to a top 30 contract anyway. Tristan Hope, in my opinion, I agree with everyone else here. I don't think he's a first grader. I don't want to be moving Appy out of the halves. I don't want to be moving Buller. Sorry, out of hooker. I don't want to be moving Buller out of fullback. We've literally just lost 50% of our spine. The solution is not to move the other 50%.
Yeah, I remember that last game of, I think it might have been 2023, where Appy was thrown into the halves against Manly and he missed 7 or 8 tackles. I mean, it's fine in attack.
He missed 7 last night at hooker.
Yeah, okay, well, there's probably... but there's a difference. He's more effective at hooker. He's not going to be as effective at halfback.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying if you miss 7 at hooker, how many are you going to miss on the edge?
True.
So I think the only other option is if Latu's not there, I think it is Andrews, who I thought, Steve, combined really well with Madden in the trials.
Yeah, they look good together, right? Like I'm still worried about Madden, right? Like I want to see him do it in a game that counts. And I suppose for Javon Andrews, it's the same thing. We've just got to, this is how good players are born, right? You throw them in there and give them a go. See, we've got no other option.
The trial form's fantastic, but as probably Benji wants to, he's got to see it in real time. At least with Jock, we've seen it in first grade when he was with the Tigers previously, and a little bit of it at Brisbane. But Javon Andrews will be a different beast. And with Javon, I'm not even worried about his attack. It's just, can he handle the defensive workload?
Look, the thing I think we will get if you go with Madden and Andrews Jr. is our ability to play shape improves dramatically straight away.
100%. I think the other benefit, if Jock plays with Andrews as opposed to Latu, I feel like Jock's going to get the keys. And I think when Jock filled in for Brisbane, correct me if I'm wrong, his halves partner was Billy Walters. So I actually think the fact that he's playing with, I don't mean to be disrespectful to Billy Walters, but if he had been playing with Ben Hunt, you would have seen Brisbane make a direct attempt to go through Hunt a lot more than Madden. Whereas the fact that it was Madden and Walters, I think Madden was given a bit of a license to do what he knows how to do. So I think if we give him a young guy like Andrews, Jock's going to step up, and I think we'll unlock the best out of Jock. My issue if Latu's fit is Latu's obviously a better player than Jock, and I think Benji's game plan might be just be a passenger and play through Appy and Latu and Bulla, and you kind of be a bit more quiet, which I don't want to see. I want to see Jock be aggressive if Jock's our 7.
Now, we've spoken to Benji Marshall about Jock coming to the club, Steve, and this is this exact situation he was brought here for. Mm-hmm. So it's time to show that he was the right person to ring him for that role.
Yeah, this is his moment. He's got to step up now. Like we need him. We need him to play good football, and I want him. Without having thought a lot about this, even if Latu is available, I want Madden at 7. We put Latu at 6. I don't want him to do it the other way around. Yeah.
Look, and to be fair, in my opinion, Jock Madden's probably the best game manager we have in the club. I think he's the guy who is a genuine half.
Good kicker too.
Who can control the game, and that's something that could work well for us.
Yeah, I said that pre-season from this chair. I think he's the best game manager, no doubt. So there's no issue there. The problem is we've got 2 guys out, and it's that, extra half we've got to replace. And, if Latu's not back, then, I fear it's just asking too much. All we can ask of Jock Madden is to steer the team around the park, provide a good kicking game, and then just unlock the rest of the team. I'm not going to say, look, if we don't win, he's done a bad job. He's just got to do his job.
The thing you're going to notice with Jock playing in the halves next week is whether our edges are on point or not. With Adam, when our edges aren't on point, he's got such a strong running game that he still makes it look like we're kind of breaking the line on whatever. If our edges, if their timing is out next week and Jock's in the halves, you're going to know because the ball's just going to die with him and it's going to look absolutely hopeless. So that's why I said I'm a little bit more concerned about our centres because we've got 2 strike second rowers now. We need our centres to be on point, whether that's Taruva Makasini, whether Patrick Herbert comes in, whoever's given the role of playing right and left centre next week, they need to have a 9 out of 10 game.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, boys. I'll start with you, Rob.
My 3 went to Alex Twal. I thought it was the best game he's ever had for the club. He was absolutely outstanding. We always refer to our friend Adele, and he says he always provides a 7.5 out of 10 game. This was a 9 out of 10 game from Alex Twal. Back-to-back great wins, great games, I should say. The 2 points is for Appy Coruscant. I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm fearful that it's just another year going to be wasted of Appy Coruscant's brilliance at our club. We need to take advantage of the remaining time Appy's got left. He's a magnificent player. He's one of my favourite players. Disappointing that he puts in all that hard work and he just still sucks it up like a man every week and just accepts the loss and brushes it off and gets on to next week. My 1 could have gone to anyone from the starting forward pack and basically anyone on the bench that wasn't Hope, no offence.
Or safer.
Or safer. I'm actually going to give mine to Sione. But again, I got no issues with Royce Hunt. I was going to give it to Terrell May. Terrell May didn't miss a tackle. I think he made 36. He made well over his 100 metres. I just think we need to use Terrell a little bit better. But all the forwards, I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of the effort. I'm absolutely devastated at everything that went on, not just losing a game we should have won, but more importantly, the injuries we have and the fact that our halves would have learnt from last night and they won't be there next week to rectify what they did wrong last night.
And on losing a game that we should have won, we had a period last year where there was a number of games in a row that we should have won. 8 in a row
we lost.
And there was a number of them that we actually should have won. We got ourselves into the positions and we can't afford to have that happen again this year. Steve, you're 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, well, similar thoughts to Rob. I thought we could have given it to anyone in the forward pack, but I gave 3 to Alex. I thought he was exceptional. I gave 2 to Sione. I thought he had a monstrous game, and as I said earlier, 1 point went to Royce Hunt. I think he did everything asked of him.
Yeah, I don't know what the order is between the 3 and the 2. I think it's between Twal and Appy for me. And then my 1 point, I was tossed up between Sione, but the other person that I was very impressed with was his brother, Samuela. I thought he's just so lethal on that left edge.
He's starting to look like Ola Kawadu.
I'm being serious. Give him another 2 years playing like this, and no one take the piss out of me in the comments. Give him 2 more years, he'll be playing rep footy if he keeps that form. I'm telling you.
So all those comments directed to Rob Jr., please.
And please emphasise junior, not senior.
But he looks a lot bigger and a lot more physically intimidating out on the field.
Last night was his best game defensively in the sense that he only missed 1 tackle as opposed to the 5 or 6 he usually misses on the edge. But once he fixes that defence so that he's only missing 1, maybe 2 tackles each game, he's such a threat in attack.
Yeah, I'm fairly similar to you guys. I think we're all spread it across about 4 players. My 3 went to Twal.
Not Skelton?
No, Skelton didn't get them, mate. My 2 went to Appy as well, and my 1 went to Royce Hunt, who I thought was absolutely outstanding and is providing something we haven't had at our club in a long time, a guy who can go out there and get a little bit of impact. Now, before the game yesterday, Steve, the Ambush had an event at the Drifters Wharf, was it?
Drifters Wharf, yeah. So we had that event started at 4:30. We had Sean Milkamp, the CEO, come down and have a chat with us for about 20 minutes, which was awesome. Then we just did the usual Ambush stuff. We had the podcast. We had Kelly up there from Hear Her Roar, and we had Matty G from his podcast, and we also had Jai from the Borough. Is it Jai? No, it's not Jai. Anyway, yeah,
I wasn't there. Remember?
No, the guy from the Borough, but it was great. We had 70 people, more than 70 people in the event. So for our first event, it was awesome. Our next one is going to be round 7, so we'll talk about it more later. But if you've never been to an Ambush event and you want to get to know some Tigers fans, have a bit of fun before a game, get out there.
Now, Shane replaced me yesterday interviewing Sean. How did he go? Has he taken my job?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone was saying, like, send Gary a text and tell him he's lost his job. I said, mate, it's not worth it. I'll just cop it for a week.
So we also recorded that interview yesterday, so we'll be getting that out on West Tigers TV later in the week. I've had a quick little look at it today. It looked like a really interesting interview. There's a few shorts out already, so make sure you check that out next week.
Gary, can I just say thanks to the club? They paid for the room for us.
Oh, that's nice.
And then they also put $500 across the bar. So if you were wearing Tigers gear, you could go and get a token and get a free beer, wine, soft drink, that sort of thing. So, West Tigers are really supporting us, and it's awesome to see.
Well done.
So finally, I don't attend an Ambush event and
you
they're
miss
giving
a
out
beer.
free drinks. Was that planned, Steve?
Yeah.
Now, we received a message to our page through the week. I'm going to actually just read this out. It's from, one second, I'll just get, from Chrissy Craig. It's been sent through to us by Joe Maroon from the Billy Joe podcast. So a shout out to Joe as well. But we've got it up on the screen. Hi, everyone. This might be a long shot, but I thought I'd try. My dad, Des, nicknamed Shuey, passed away in 2005. He was a passionate Tiger supporter. After he passed, I gave his Tiger Power flag to the boys on the hill at the footy because I knew he would have loved it still being waved there. Meant a lot to him and our family. Over the years, I've often wondered what happened to it and who might have it now. If anyone remembers the flag or who might know where it ended up, we would really love to hear from you. So if you do have any information on that flag, please reach out to us through our channels and we'll get that through to Chrissy and get you in contact with her so you can just give her a little bit of information around what happened to that. It's always great to see passionate supporters like that trying.
Yeah, it's nice. It's actually, I would have been selfish and probably kept it in the family. So it was nice of Shuey to actually want it, to be remembered and given to someone that would be at the hill every week after that. So we'll do our best, Chrissy, to find it for you.
Now, have you and Adele had an argument or something? Like you're You're not doing the coach's corner with Rob and Adele tonight?
I just felt like a night off. Yesterday really bugged me, and I'm not going to lie. I think Adele and me, it would have been great viewing because I would have just ripped into him over some of the stuff we've been saying in the private chat. I don't want you going soft on him. I know you're going to do a fantastic job. I've seen the preparation.
I'm a little bit scared of Adele.
Yeah, if Adele just keeps talking up how good our attack was in the red zone and we did the right thing, I'll probably just switch off. I'm not going to lie. But don't let him go down that path. Keep him honest.
In fairness, he was saying that stuff during the game as well.
Well, I'm still waiting for that try from a barge over. And it's like 8:30 Sunday night. It hasn't happened yet, but apparently it's coming.
So stay with us after the show. In about 10 minutes, we'll have Adele on here. I get to sit down and have a little bit of a chat to him tonight. We also have coming up on Tuesday our preview show, coming live from Mic'd Up Studios like we always do, and I forgot to plug them again at the start of the show, so I'll plug them about four times right now.
Daniel Hanna from Mic'd Up Studios at Parramatta won't mind.
I always forget. I'm not very good at my intros, but we have that show coming up on Tuesday. I won't be on that show. Is there a rumour you're going to jump on it, Junior?
Yeah, they've called in the big boy.
Yep. So again, I'm going to lose once another job. So
and we're going to be losing Steve next week, I think.
Yeah,
and maybe the Tuesday after that. So hopefully Eddie's back on real soon. Anyway,
I think he's avoiding us.
Oh, he'll be back, mate. We have to see how his cricket team went today.
So Wednesday night we'll be back again with West Tigers Live, coming to you live from iChoice Studios. Make sure you join that one. That will be another great show. Please make sure you subscribe, share, review the West Tigers TV, all the good stuff. Keep our algorithm going. Stay tuned. We have Coach's Corner coming up. Look out for the Ambush show, Ambush interview coming out later in the week. Thanks for joining us on